Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome all of you all again for our continuation of Ram Yatra. So I was just doing a little calculation of, how much I need to speak in terms of what I need to cover over the next couple of days. And I was trying to see if I can time things in such a way that I finish the Sita Swayamvar and the marriage of Sita and Ram while we are here in Janakpur. There are two ways I can do it. One, I can make sure I do it. But the other one, I don't make sure. I kind of just go by the flow, and then it will spill over to Kathmandu also. So by the time we end our yatra, we will actually get Sita and Ram married, So, what do you all prefer? Should I go with the flow? First way. How many of you all feel we should go with the flow? Go with the flow means I will speak at the speed at which I want to speak, peacefully, and really go deep into it. And finishing it today means I can finish it in the next 2 hours also. So we go with the flow? Okay. I prefer that also. But I'm just asking you all permission. So, where we stopped yesterday was when Vishwamitra Muni, Rama and Lakshman entered into Siddhashram. The word Siddhashram refers to a place, an ashram, where Siddhas stay. These are perfected people. They don't have any aspirations in life. They live for the sake of others. And their only goal is to please the Lord. These are Nitya Siddhas. So Siddhashram is resided by such exalted personalities. When Vishwamitra Muni brought Rama and Lakshman to Siddhashram, he tells Lord Ram that this hermitage belongs as much to you as it belongs to me. So Ram immediately asks him, what do you mean by that? And then Vishwamitra Muni begins to tell a story. So Vishwamitra Muni mentioned that Kashyapa and Diti meditated very close to Siddhashram. Kashyapa is one of the sons of Lord Brahma, one of the Prajapatis originally. And Diti is the mother of all the gods, including Indra. So, when they meditated somewhere close by to this particular place, eventually Vamana was born to them as their son. And Vamana, when he was born to Kashyapa and Diti, eventually he came to this particular ashram to meditate. So this ashram, Siddhashram, it was originally Vamanadeva's ashram. And before Vamanadeva also, many centuries back, Lord Vishnu had personally meditated in this ashram. So when Ram is brought over here by Vishwamitra Muni, what is Vishwamitra Muni trying to tell him? He's trying to tell Lord Ram that this ashram actually is yours only. Right now I'm occupying it. Right now I'm using it. But it doesn't mean it belongs to me. It actually belongs to you. And I am just a caretaker at this point in time. And here he offered Siddhashram to Lord Ram back. And he said, this belongs to you only. I'm just using it right now. I'm reciting right now. But it originally belongs to you. So he says, this belongs to me as much as it belongs to you. So what Vishwamitra Muni is trying to tell over here is a very important principle of life, which is the next principle that Vishwamitra Muni learns in a journey with Lord Ram. What he learns from this story is, or rather, when Vishwamitra Muni offers the Siddhashram to Lord Ram, and he tells him that this ashram belongs as much to you as it belongs to me, Ram, he tells Vishwamitra Muni, no, this ashram is yours. And I'm just here for some time. Ownership and controllership are two different things. Ownership does not imply control. And controllership does not imply ownership. Ram owned Siddhashram, but it doesn't control Siddhashram. Vishwamitra Muni controls Siddhashram, but he's saying, I don't own Siddhashram. It's a very interesting way of looking at, possession, isn't it? So all of us, we possess things. We possess houses, we possess cars, we own stuff, isn't it? Just because we own it doesn't mean it belongs to us. Technically, nothing in this world belongs to us, isn't it? Because if it really belongs to us, it would remain with us forever. If all of you all bought a plane ticket and came to Gaya, isn't it? After you got off at Gaya station, airport, did you take the seat along with you? I paid for it, Can you claim that this seat belongs to me forever? You use it for that 2-hour duration you have bought it. And after 2 hours, the seat belongs to somebody else. Often there are people waiting outside the plane to enter. In 10 minutes, what belongs to you now belongs to somebody else. That's the way life is. Right now, we may be owning some property, we may be owning some car, we may be owning some, gold, and we may be owning some wealth and all that, bank balance, stocks and shares. The day you die, that very moment it belongs to somebody else. Not even the next moment. That very moment it belongs to somebody else. 40 years, 50 years we held on to one share. And it grew to a substantial amount. And suddenly when it is the highest, wealth, it doesn't belong to you only. What does it mean? When your property value increases, the day it is the highest, that day you die. Now the property belongs to somebody else, isn't it? So Vishwamitra Muni is very clear. Right now I'm staying here, but doesn't mean Siddhashram is mine. I'm only controlling it, I'm only taking care of it for a short duration of time. But eternally it belongs to you only. This is the spirit of devotion. This is the spirit of bhakti. And this is a spirit with which we should see everything that we possess, including people. People that are there in our life, we don't own them. They are only given to us for being taken care of. So we take care of them for some time. But they don't belong to us. They are not our properties, isn't it? So this is a very evolved way of looking at things and people in our lives. This concept is called trusteeship. The word trusteeship means, the idea of trusteeship means whatever property, including life itself, should be handled with respect because it belongs to God. So when it should be handled with respect because it belongs to God, and at the same time it should be handled with detachment because it doesn't belong to us. This is what is called trusteeship. So whatever we have in our lives, we are simply trustees. For a short duration of time, that thing is given to us, entrusted to us. We're supposed to take care of it and then give up. So this whole thought process is what Vishwamitra Muni is realizing at this point in time. Till Ram walked into Siddhashram, Vishwamitra Muni felt this Siddhashram belongs to me. And the moment Lord Ram walked in, Vishwamitra Muni realized, hey, Siddhashram never belonged to me. It belonged to Lord Ram only. It belonged to Vamanadev. It belonged to Lord Vishnu. It never is mine. All of us in our lives, till the day Krishna and Ram walk into your life, you have this thought that this thing belongs to me. The day the Supreme Lord walks into your life, that day your house is taken over by Jagannath. Your house is taken over by Radha and Krishna. Your house is taken over by Gaur Nitai. Your house is taken over by, the deities that actually reside in your house. They are the owners, and you are simply a trustee, a caretaker. While you are there, while you are a trustee, you can also enjoy a little bit. But ultimately, we enjoy with detachment, understanding that very soon it is going to go away from our life. When Lord Rama reached Chitrakoot, he met Valmiki Muni over there. And Lord Rama asks Valmiki Muni, where should I build a house in Chitrakoot? So they reach Chitrakoot, there's a huge place, and he's just asking Valmiki a simple question, where should I build my house? Valmiki tells him, you should build your house in the hearts of your devotees. Ram is thinking, I asked him a practical question. Why is giving a philosophical answer? Valmiki Muni is actually giving a very practical answer. All of us, we all want to build homes, isn't it? But where should we build a house? If you consider a physical, 4x4 apartment to be your house, you will actually be very sad because anything can happen anytime, isn't it? I just read about one fellow, it's a multi-millionaire. He built a house on a cliff facing ocean. And somehow, the house he built was like almost, $15-20 million worth property and, the structure. And somehow, due to some heavy storm in California, that house, that cliff is kind of, eroding. And that house has become unstable, it's going to fall into the ocean. That guy is saying, I will not go for my house. I put so much trouble to build this house. I can't go now. 80-year-old fellow. They're trying to vacate him from the house. He's not ready to come out only of the house. He's saying, no, everything is fine. My house won't fall. I built a good house. Look at the illusion that people are in, Anytime anything can happen, isn't it? If you're too attached to things, if you're too attached to people, if you're too attached to stuff, at some point when it is taken away from you, the pain that you will go through is going to be immense. But when you understand that nothing belongs to you, everything belongs to God only. I'm only taking care for some time. You will not be so attached. Just like you're not so attached to the plane seat. Understanding that this is not mine. This belongs to Indigo. I don't own it. I'm just a trustee for a short duration of time, It's exactly the same thing for your house. It's exactly the same thing for your cars. It's exactly the same thing for your, gadgets and for whatever you want. The moment you're gone, it belongs to somebody else. So then while you're alive only, if you have that spirit, you'll be so peaceful, isn't it? There is good, if it's not there is good. That's the whole spirit that Vishwamitra Muni is cultivating here. And Vishwamitra Muni if you see in his journey, at every step he's evolving. There is more that he's learning. There is more spiritual evolution that is happening in his mindset. Spirituality is not just a physical practice. It's a mindset evolution. As you practice the journey of spirituality, your mindset has to evolve. And that is when you're actually evolving. So here, Vishwamitra Muni reaches Siddhashram, introduces Ram and Lakshman to all the sages in Siddhashram. And then he tells Ram and Lakshman that, my dear Ram, I am going to perform a sacrifice now. And this sacrifice is going to be a 7-day sacrifice. It's going to last for 7 full days. And in the midst of these 7 days of sacrifice that is going to happen, anything can go wrong. Please, both of you, be alert. And Vishwamitra Muni tells Ram that I am going to take a vow at this point in time of abstinence from anger and silence. These 2 vows I am going to take. Till the end of the sacrifice, I have to follow these 2 vows strictly. And I request the 2 of you to please take charge and protect the sacrifice and make sure it reaches its culmination. And then Vishwamitra Muni detaches himself and sits down to perform a sacrifice. For those who are controllers, it is not easy to do that. Imagine Vishwamitra Muni has all the power to do whatever he wants to destroy those demons. You think Vishwamitra can't destroy the demons? Mari Subaho? He can destroy easily. But he doesn't want to. He's detaching himself from that controllership, giving up anger, becoming silent. Allegorically, this is a lot to do with our life. All of us are very attached people. And most of us are control freaks. We love to have full control over everything. Telling Lord Ram, please take charge of my life. After he takes charge also, he'll keep giving him instructions. Are aisa karo, aisa maro usko. That's the way our mind is programmed, But spirituality inspires us to develop the right spirit of letting go. In the Mahabharata war, Hanumanji was sitting on the flag of Arjuna and he was observing the whole war going on over there. You think Hanumanji didn't find faults with so many people that are part of the war? I mean, there would have been so many points where Hanumanji would have been irritated with how they're fighting, He has won Ramayana war. After winning Ramayana war, now he is observing Mahabharata war. Obviously, people's capacity to fight is so much lesser now. Isn't it? People's skills are so much lesser now. How frustrating it would be for Hanumanji to see that war, tell me. Imagine that, How frustrating it will be. Just like somebody who's an expert cook goes to somebody else's house and enters the kitchen. How much temptation is there, to go and give instructions, tell them, "Arey, aisa chok marna chahiye." It's a very tempting thing, right? So you feel like giving instructions, you feel like intervening, you feel like, getting in there. I loved this part of the Ramayana. Vishwamitra Muni is telling Rama and Lakshman, I trust you fully, take care. I'm detaching myself and I'm sitting and focusing. This is almost impossible. Many years back, I often tell this story, which is something that has, really affected my heart so much. Many years back, when I had just joined the Radha Gopinath temple, so I used to live in Goa most of my life. We became devotees in Goa and was, helping in the services there. And then, I shifted to Bangalore for a couple of years for studies, and then I shifted to Radha Gopinath temple in Mumbai. So in all those years that I was in Bangalore and working outside, I would still come back for festivals to Goa. So all the major festivals I would come back to do services, to do whatever I need to do. And when I joined the temple, that was the first year I joined the temple. And I came back from, Chowpatty for Janmashtami in Goa. And I came along with Goenbru, who is my mentor. And both of us came and we reached on the day of Janmashtami. So the moment we reached somewhere in the afternoon, in the morning or afternoon, something like that, So the moment we reached, I dropped my bag and I was running to go and, do my services, Goenbru saw me running. He said, where are you going? I said, oh, Janmashtami is there. I have so many services to do, I have to coordinate so many things. Goenbru told me, don't go anywhere. I said, Prabhu, how can Janmashtami happen without me? Every year I've been coming over here and so many important services I'm doing. Goenbru gave me a book, Nectar of Instruction. And he told me, by heart all the verses of this book and show me. I said, Prabhu, I can do this later. Janmashtami is there, such an important festival. I need to go. Devotees want me to come. Goenbru said, nothing doing. He said, sit here and see Janmashtami happening without you. And I was sitting over there, with Nectar of Instruction in my hand. Vacho Vegam, Manasa Kurodha Vegam. I was having practical realizations of it. I was getting like really angry. I was getting, Mind is going bonkers and goes bustling. Sit. I learned all those verses sitting over there, with a lot of frustration in my heart. And then we went exactly for the lecture. I went to Goiz Bro and I saw everything perfectly organized. Much better than what I would have done if I was there. That day I understood a very important thing in life. Without you also, everything will go on. Everything will go on without you. And if things are going on with you, it's going on in spite of you. I mean, in spite of all the mess that you can create, in spite of all the mistakes that you can make, still things are going on. So when we have this thought that I am doing everything, it's a very, very illusory thought. It's the biggest illusion that we can be in. Vishwamitra Muni is a control freak. He is not a normal person. But here, with Lord Ram, he is changing. He is evolving. A little later, when we actually see Vishwamitra Muni's life, we will see how much of a control freak he was. And at this point in time, the way he is giving up is not easy. He is telling Lord Ram, I believe you, I trust you, you take care, I am sitting peacefully. It is not easy to do that. So usually when I used to organize events for Radhanath Maharaj, when I was reading this part of the Ramayana, and then I was also doing these big events, massive scale events with some of the biggest celebrities in the whole of India coming and attending these events, And when I studied this section of the Ramayana and while I was organizing all these events, I learned some really important and very amazing principles of management from these stories. So whenever I would organize these events, I would go and sit at the back. So I would obviously empower people, give the right training and all that. And then I would be detached. And Modi was on stage with Radhanath Maharaj and massive event going on. I'm sitting right at the back, peacefully. And people were coming and asking me, are you the organizer? I said, yeah, everything is happening. This is such an important thing. And I see devotees struggling all the time with this. Whenever I travel around the world, I go to so many temples and I see the temple president doing everything. Arranging mics, putting sound system on. Practically every small thing, the head of the temple wants to have a say on it. This is major controllership. The desire for having control in every small nook and corner of things. Vishwamitra Muni can teach us some major things about leadership through this little story. Rama and Lakshman, they become alert and they decide to guard the sacrifice. The Acharyas give a beautiful analogy to describe how Rama and Lakshman were guarding the sacrifice of Vishwamitra Muni. So Vishwamitra Muni was right in the between, performing this fire sacrifice, pouring ghee into the fire, mantras were being chanted, and there was a real powerful yajna going on. Rama and Lakshman were moving around the sacrifice, around the fire. So it is said, just like the eyelids protect the eyeballs, similarly Ram and Lakshman were protecting the yajna of Vishwamitra Muni. And how they were protecting? The lower eyelid is stationary. The upper eyelid goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down, right? So similarly, Lakshman was stationary in one place. Lord Rama was going around and coming back and touching him. And then going around, coming back and touching him. And the middle, the yajna, was like the eyeball that they were protecting. What an analogy, right? What an amazing analogy. So Lakshman was standing in one place, just like the lower eyelids is stationary in one place. Rama would go around and come back. And go around and come back. And why this example is given of eyelids protecting the eyeballs? The reason this example is given is because, if you actually notice, eyelids are very, very alert. Isn't it? If something comes to our eyes, instantly eyelids close. You don't have to think. It's like in moments, less than a nanosecond, the eyelids close. That's how careful the eyelids are. And that is how alert Rama and Lakshman were in guarding the yajna of Vishwamitra Muni. And as Rama and Lakshman were guarding this yajna, Vishwamitra Muni, 6 days passed. Nothing happened. Everything was cool and calm. The yajna was going on constantly. Mantras were being chanted. Ghee was being poured into the fire. Absolutely, perfectly, everything was going on. And 7th day, the last day of the yajna, the last oblations was going to be poured into the fire. So after the last oblations was poured, the yajna is officially over. And Ram and Lakshman were thinking, nothing happened. He called us so far to come and protect the yajna from some demons. Nothing happened. No action, And Ram and Lakshman were wondering, was there any sense in us coming at all, And just when Ram and Lakshman were thinking like this, suddenly they heard loud screams, and this massive horde of demons flew into that arena via the airways. And the entire sky became dark. When you are closest to success, that's when you become complacent. That's when you become complacent. Imagine one day Krishna decides to do a surprise audit during your japa time. When you're chanting Hare Krishna, and Krishna decides, chalo, let's see how this fellow is chanting, Imagine what he will see, He will see some really amazing sights, isn't it? One day one of our devotees was traveling in a train. There's like a group of devotees traveling on a yatra. And there was this one devotee, very thin devotee, So he was sitting and chanting japa early in the morning, And this devotee, how he chants is like really, really intense. He closes his eyes very tightly and all his teeth are visible when he's chanting, like really shaking his head and shaking his whole body and chanting, One fellow, he was observing this. For almost 1-2 hours, he was observing, how this. He tapped one of our devotees and he asked him, why is he suffering so much? So he said, so the devotee gave a very interesting explanation. This devotee said, our philosophy is chant Hare Krishna and be happy. But this guy doesn't seem to be happy at all, So how do you understand this? So he said, actually, that is an advertisement. That's the way we advertise. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. But actually, there's a small asterisk marks in between, There's chant Hare Krishna, struggle, and be happy. Right now, what you see is the struggle phase going on. And then eventually he'll be happy. So a lot of us, when we are almost about to achieve success, we become very complacent. We stop struggling. We kind of give in to the mind. We become very complacent. We said, kya farak padta hai? Today Krishna is not going to come for sure, Maybe I'll become more intense tomorrow. So we kind of give up. We just let go. And that is the time when Krishna comes. Similarly, in all aspects of our life, when we are very close to success, we kind of become very complacent about it. And that's why Rama and Lakshman over here, the last phase, they're about to become successful and they suddenly start having a discussion and they alert each other. Anytime anything can happen. And the moment these demons come, attacking hundreds of them, Lord Rāma instantly becomes alert and they get their bows and arrows ready. And these demons from the skyways start raining all kinds of obnoxious stuff into the yajna. They're throwing blood, they're throwing mucus, they're throwing meat, they're throwing flesh, they're throwing all kinds of obnoxious things into the fire. And Lord Rāma immediately creates a canopy of arrows over the yajna kunda. Imagine this beautiful canopy of arrows, and not one single drop of the blood and the meat and all fall into the yajna kunda. It's a beautiful umbrella created over the yajna kunda. Many years back when I began the Ramayana series, writing the book, my publisher asked me, can you give me an idea for a cover for the first book? And I gave them this idea. So, any of you remember, my original book cover was this, Ram and Lakshman fight, and this whole Yajna covered by a canopy of arrows. And Marit, Subahu and all these demons, they were so frustrated because not a single obnoxious thing entered into the fire. That fire, the sacrificial fire, represents the human mind. And these sages who are pouring ghee into the fire represent good advisors who are trying to pour good advice into the mind. And the demons who are trying to pour dirty things into the mind represent all the fault finders who are trying to corrupt your mind with all kinds of bad advice and bad thoughts, basically. In all our lives, you'll find these two things happening, right? Our mind is like a sacrificial fire, originally very pure. When we all come to the path of Krishna consciousness, mind is very pure. Every person we see, we think they are pure devotees only. We look at them, amazing people, such amazing people. And then over a period of time, we come in touch with Marit, Subahu and so many of these people, and they keep giving us all these thoughts. Usko dekho, kaisa japa kar raha hai. Look at this person, what he is doing. Look at this person, how he is wearing his dhoti. We hear so many of these faults again and again and again, and over a period of time, our mind gets contaminated, and that pure Yajna Kund, the pure mind, becomes now filled with so much garbage that we can't see good in devotees, that we can't see good in others. We only end up seeing faults. And that's why Vishwamitra Muni brought Rama and Lakshman. Rama and Lakshman represents the intelligence, which has the ability to discriminate and prevent the bad thoughts, faults from entering into our mind. Rama and Lakshman ensure that all that crap doesn't go into the mind and allows the mind to remain pure. If we want to progress in our spiritual lives, the only way we can progress in our spiritual life is if we do not hear faults of other devotees. Yes, everyone may have faults, but the more we hear and think about faults of others, the lesser we are going to progress in our spiritual lives, because our mind is going to be contaminated with all these faults. The mind is going to be contaminated with all these thoughts. The first year of coming into Krishna consciousness usually is the best year of spiritual life, because your mind is purest. Your mind doesn't know anybody's faults. But the challenge is 25 years later also keeping the mind that pure. That's the challenge. There's a big problem in becoming a senior devotee. The big problem in becoming a senior devotee is that you end up seeing faults with everybody. And the good part about being a junior devotee is that you don't know anything. Whatever anybody does is great. So let us all remain junior devotees for the rest of our lives. Safest position to be in. Safest situation to be in. And here, Rama and Lakshman are that intelligence that keeps the mind covered from all the contaminations and from all the negativity. So this flesh, meat, the mucus, blood, what does it all represent? It all represents contaminated thoughts, filthy words. These are all things that these things represent. And Ram and Lakshman were extremely alert, because it only takes one moment of inattentiveness for your mind to get contaminated. It only takes one moment of inattentiveness. The moment you are inattentive for 1 second, somebody can drop a contaminating thought in your mind. Gone. For the rest of your day, you're thinking. So many people just go on the internet and randomly read different articles. And unnecessarily the mind gets contaminated for the rest of the day. So therefore, you have to be extremely alert how to protect your mind and keep your mind pure. And for that, we all need the help of Ram and Lakshman, which is our alert intelligence. And the moment we lose that 1 second of alert intelligence, we freak out. The sages were very disturbed when they saw all these huge demons coming and attacking from all directions. The sages are very innocent people. They don't know what to do. They got scared. And when the sages began to scream and cry for help, Lord Ram, he displayed what is known as the Abhaya Mudra. If you see many of the deities around the world, especially the ancient temples, you find the Lord standing like this. This particular posture is known as Abhaya Mudra. And Abhaya Mudra is a posture that is hope-giving. So the Lord is in this posture. All day long he's standing like this only. Because there are a lot of hopeless people that come all day long to meet him. Yeah? And he's giving all of us, don't worry, I'm there for you. I'm there for you. I'm there for you. You know? So the moment Lord Ram did like this, all the sages immediately became peaceful. They sat down and they continued focusing on their sadhana. They continued focusing on their mantras. They continued focusing on what they're supposed to do. And let Lord Ram do the rest. All of us in our own lives, we'll go through such chaotic phases. We'll all go through such situations in our life where everything around us is completely chaotic. And our mind is going crazy. The mind is getting so disturbed with all these thoughts and fears. At that point, please have a look at one of the deities that is holding Abhaya Mudra. And just look at Varadaraj, look at Tirupati Balaji, look at so many of these amazing deities whose hands are like this. And the moment you look at, the Lord like this, bas, that's it. You should feel that I don't have to worry. When the Lord is there to protect me, why should I, get unnecessarily stressed out? The sages became completely peaceful, as if these demons don't exist only. And they were sitting and doing their yajna peacefully. And these demons were getting really irritated. They are thinking, we are screaming so much, and these guys are so peaceful. How is it possible? And the demons decided, we're throwing stuff from top, it's not working out. Let's come to the ground and attack from the ground. All the demons started descending on the earth. And as the demons were descending on the earth, some force was preventing them to descend to the earth. And they're wondering, why are they not able to set their foot on earth? And that's when they realized all these sages have been chanting mantras. And the power of the mantras is so intense that these demons were not able to put their foot on the ground only. The mantras were too powerful when preventing them from reaching the ground. And the demons decided to counter those mantras, we need to chant our own mantras. And the demons started chanting their own mantras, which is essentially bad words. Gali, And the demons started swearing and giving all kinds of bad words, thinking that bad vibration will counter the good vibration that is going on below. But the most amazing thing is that no matter how many bad words the demons were saying, it was not working only. The mantras were too powerful to counter the effect of those bad, vibrations. Essentially, in all our lives, we come across both these kind of people. We come across sages who are chanting mantras, and we come across demons who are chanting bad words. And I'm sure all of you all in your own experiences you would have seen. Right now, for the last 3-4 days that you all have been here with us on a yatra, most of the times you are chanting, kirtan going on, katha going on, some discussions going on, something spiritual going on constantly, isn't it? And in between all that, I'm sure you would have experienced some negative things also happening, isn't it? Yeah, it could be somebody fighting, somewhere. It could be some kind of, somebody having a conversation on the phone which is negative in nature. Whatever it is, we all come across both types of vibrations constantly in our lives. And I'm sure all of you all, it's even more when you're at home, isn't it? When you're at home, you come across more negative vibrations than positive vibrations. When you're in yatra, you come across more positive vibrations than negative vibrations. But nonetheless, both these vibrations always exist in life. The more we surround yourself by these positive vibrations, the more protected you are. I highly recommend all of you all to try to live life in such a way that you are constantly surrounded by positive vibrations. What can you do to make these vibrations good? Simple things. I'm just going to give you some very simple things that you can do on a day-to-day basis. As soon as you get up in the morning, put on some tape, put on some sound which is very, very powerful. You could hear Suprabhatam, you could hear Vishnu Sahasranam, you could hear Hare Krishna Mahamantra Kirtan, you could hear any of these mantras early in the morning. As soon as you get up, you could hear a lecture. Begin your day with mantras. Begin your day with pure words, pure vibrations, basically. Don't begin your day with Bollywood music. Don't begin your day with mundane stuff. Begin your day with these vibrations. And through the day, try to orchestrate your day in such a way that you have more and more access to these positive vibrations. Like typically, lunchtime when you're having lunch, put on some kirtan, put on some lecture and hear. Why? Just let it go on the background. Even if you're not fully absorbed, attentive, let it be in the background. While you're having all your 3 meals, let some positive vibration go on, some lecture go on, you may not hear 100% of all the lecture. But even if you hear one sentence, it's good. And subtly, the Atma is hearing all of it, isn't it? And those vibrations are very important to protect us. As much as possible, use your time where you can do multitasking to have vibrations, sound vibrations going on. It is also a good idea to have, I'll tell you one experience of mine which I'll never forget in my life. Many, many years back when I was in the ashram, one particular year, I got malaria almost 5 times continuously. Every month I would get malaria. And at some point, they realized that something is really wrong. They admitted me in the hospital, Bhaktivinoda Hospital. And I was in Bhaktivinoda Hospital for 3 or 4 days. And I'll tell you, those 3-4 days that I was in Bhaktivinoda Hospital admitted, with drips and with all that stuff going on, medicines and all that, those were one of the best days of my life. I'll tell you why. Because in the hospital, throughout the hospital, they have very low volume of Prabhupada's bhajans and kirtans going on constantly. So I would wake up every day at 2 o'clock in the morning with, hearing these vibrations, have a bath, sit on the hospital bed, and I would chant. And I'll tell you, the kind of chanting that I did in those 3-4 days was probably the best chanting I've done in my life. Because all day long, I'm just hearing Prabhupada's, mantras, basically. And after 2-3 hours, night, it really becomes a rhythm. It just goes deep into subconsciousness. Try that in your house. Somewhere around your house, just keep in a very low volume. Let it keep playing. Beyond a certain point, it becomes a part of a subconscious rhythm. And it will seriously affect your consciousness. It will seriously help you absorb much, much more. And here, imagine such powerful demons like Marich and Subha, they are not even able to descend on the earth simply because the sages are chanting mantras. And in fact, all their negative energy, they couldn't, counteract the power of the mantras. And then Lord Ram, when he realized that the demons are really becoming more and more fierce and aggressive, Lord Ram decided to take action. Lord Ram put on his bow, mounted an arrow, which was known as a Manava Astra. And using the Manava Astra, so the Manava Astra is a very interesting type of arrow. Manava Astra is a blunt arrow. It is not a pointed arrow. So he used the Manava Astra and hit Marich on his chest. The Manava Astra was so powerful, and Marich, when he was hit on his chest by this Manava Astra, he was thrown back hundreds of miles into the ocean. And Marich landed hundreds of miles into the ocean. And many people say that he landed in today what is known as Mauritius. Mauritius is named after Marich. Now imagine the power of that blunt arrow of Lord Ram. So the word Maricha means illusion. That is the meaning of the word Marich. So Marich represents wrong committed in this birth that results in suffering in the next birth. And Marich represents accumulated knowledge that leads to no transformation. So Marich essentially is illusion, which means that we may be in illusion that I know so much. But if after knowing so much there is no transformation, what is the point in knowing so much? So that is the kind of illusion that Marich represents, basically. And Lord Ram sent Marich very, very far away into the ocean, indicating that Marich has a long way to go to understand the higher truths in life. Marich represents those people who take unnecessary risks in life. All of us take some risk in life, isn't it? But Marich represents those people who take unnecessary risk. Nowadays, so many people are dying simply making reels. I don't know if you all know this. So many people are dying simply making reels. Standing on the edge of a mountain, trying to pose, and they fall down and die. Trying to do stunts on bikes, fall down and die. Trying to play with fire and crackers, and they get burnt and they die. This is all Marich. Taking unwanted risks in life. So Marich, without understanding who Ram is, went to attack him. So essentially, you have to know what is right and what is wrong. And you should have the ability to discriminate. The lesson that Vishwamitra Muni learned at this point in time, while Ram was dealing with Marich, Suvao and all these demons, was that in life, I must take risks that are calculated and not take unwarranted, unnecessary risks in life. And this applies to anybody, even if you're a devotee or a non-devotee. It applies to all of us. Many years back, right now in Nepal, and in this place there was a very big calamity that happened in our community. 8 devotees were planning to go to Muktinath, and one of them was my best friend, really close to each other, and so many people told them, don't go, because that flight from Pokhara to Jomsom is a very dangerous flight. Historically, every year one plane crashes in Nepal. So when you know historically that there is such things happening, why would you want to take a risk? Unfortunately, some people enjoy the risk. And no matter how many warnings you're given, you end up doing it. I remember when I went to Chardham a few years back, Govindra was very upset with me. He called me and he literally chastised me. He said, what nonsense, what are you doing taking so many people to Chardham? I said, oh, I never knew it was so risky. If I knew it was so risky, I would never have done this. After the whole Chardham got over, I took almost like 300 people to Chardham, literally that year, Craziest yatra ever. And when we reached back, I was like through those 14, 15 days, I was holding my heart was literally in my mouth, The day we reached back in Haridwar, I announced, please all of you all go home. I am free from the responsibility of getting all of you all back alive. I'll save. I said, please go back home. I am done with this yatra. Because it was risky. And we didn't realize what we were getting into. So, life should be lived nicely, but life should not be lived on the edge. We take risks. It's not that we don't take any risks at all. But you take risks that are reasonable. Don't take unnecessary risks. A few days back, I was talking to Govindra and told him I'm coming to Nepal on a yatra. First thing he asked me, are you going to Muktinath? I said, no, Prabhu, not at all. I'll never go to Muktil. And definitely I will not take so many people to Muktil. So then he said, okay, fine. Because when Gaur Krishna died, at one point both of us were talking to each other. And this was like just a few weeks before he died. And we were talking to each other, and we were showing our hand lines to each other. And both of us were looking at our hand lines. Our hand lines were very similar. And he said, "No, I have a very short life." I said, "Oh, I have an even shorter life." And we were having a discussion about that. And he died in this plane crash. And then everybody started looking at me. Because according to my understanding, I was supposed to live till 35. Obviously, now I'm much more. So then going through made it a policy that this guy will never go to dangerous places on the mountains. So the idea of not wanting to take risks and not wanting to take unnecessary risks, it comes under a very important principle in spiritual life. It is called prayas. Rupa Goswami mentions this. Prayasa means over-endeavor. Over-endeavor means taking too much risks beyond your means. When people enter into the share market without understanding what they're jumping into. And such huge risks, they put their entire life savings into it. Without any calculations, without any thought. All that represents marriage. And you know why it is dangerous? The reason it is dangerous is because for us to practice spiritual life nicely, you need to have a peaceful mind. The prerequisite to practice spiritual life is a peaceful mind. Many people come to me and ask me this question: how much should we invest in the share market? Of course, I'm the wrong person to ask this question, I have no idea. But they come and ask me, how much should I? And I have a very standard principle answer to that. And this is an answer that applies to a lot of other things also. And you know what's the answer that I say? You invest that much that allows you to have a peaceful sleep at night. That's it. How much is your risk-taking capacity? For each one of us, it is different. For somebody, putting 1,000 rupees is big risk. For somebody, few crores is not a big risk. So somebody will put few crores and go to sleep nicely. And one fellow puts 5,000 rupees and doesn't get sleep only. He's wondering what is happening to my 5,000 rupees. So if your capacity is 5,000 rupees, don't go beyond that. And if your capacity is 2 crores, don't go beyond that. So what risk you can take should be in such a way that your night's sleep is not disturbed. And this is not only about share market, it's talking about any risk in life. Any risk that disturbs the quality of your night's sleep is dangerous. Because it's going to affect your chanting. It is going to affect your peace of mind. It is going to affect your spiritual journey. And then Lord Rāma, he chooses another missile known as Agni Astra. And he sends it on Shubhahu and burns him down to ashes. And then he uses a missile known as a Vayava Astra and destroys all the other demons. Shubhahu represents the animalistic mind. Marish represents illusion and unnecessary risk-taking ventures. And Shubhahu represents the animalistic mind. When you have an undisciplined, untamed mind, that undisciplined, untamed mind has to be boxed, has to be disciplined. So all of us, when we come to the path of spirituality, path of Krishna consciousness, we all have a mind that is not tamed at all. I mean, have you ever heard of mind control before coming to ISKCON? You would have never heard the term mind control only. And in fact, before starting to practice spiritual life, your mind doesn't trouble you at all. Because you never did anything to trouble the mind. Because you didn't trouble the mind never troubled you. You are your best friends. But when you start practicing spirituality, you are troubling the mind. Because you are telling the mind, I will do something that you don't want. That's when you will actually see how dangerous the mind can be. Till you don't meddle with the mind, the mind is very peaceful. It doesn't disturb you at all. And that's why a lot of people, when they don't practice any form of spirituality, they don't have any form of spiritual consciousness, they feel their mind is peaceful. Why? Because their mind doesn't trouble them only, because they're harmless guys. So when you are harmless to the mind, why will the mind trouble you? But the moment you start practicing spirituality, you become very dangerous to the mind. Because you're not going to listen to everything the mind says. You're going to be very discriminative. You're going to be very calculative. You're going to think 100 times before listening to the mind. And that's something the mind hates. The mind loves people who are submissive to it. The mind suddenly says, I want to eat chocolate ice cream. Okay, go and buy. And suddenly on a yatra, and you are told, don't eat anything randomly here and there. The mind is not happy. The mind is not at all happy. The mind is very, very angry, isn't it? The mind wants to do shopping. Every second shop you want to go, I want to enter into it. And in the yatra you're told, don't go shopping. Yeah? You think the mind is happy? Not at all. The mind wants to sleep a lot. And in the yatra we are told, get up Mangalarti. You think the mind is going to be happy with you? Not at all. The mind that is, controlled, or rather it is kind of starting to be put into a fence, it is not a happy mind. It's a wild mind. But only when you tame that wild mind over a period of time, through the practice of discipline, through the practice of spirituality, will that mind become your best friend. And will that mind help you grow in your spiritual journey. Just like the example that is given is of taming of a lion. So when a lion is brought in from a jungle, the lion is the king of the jungle. It can do what it wants, right? But when it is brought into a circus, it's brought into a cage, it is put into one small cage. Oh my God, the lion is so angry. The king of the jungle is put into a small cage, banging the cage like anything, roaring loudly. For 1 week, they don't look at the lion only. Forget feeding it. They don't even look at the lion. The lion's ego is really hurt. I am the king of the jungle. What the hell? Why don't you look at me at least? I was roaring so loudly. After 1 week, the lion becomes very, very weak. The first 1 day, it's banging all the cages, it's trying to break the cage and all that, it's biting the cage and all. Second day, it realizes there's no point in doing so much. Only when somebody comes, it starts, And the third day, the lion is seeing this fellow is coming in, not even looking at me also, And after a few days, the lion realizes that no matter what I do, these guys are not going to listen to me. I better sit quietly and conserve my energy. Peacefully sitting inside and conserving an energy. After 1 week, this fellow is dying of hunger. Then they open the cage. The lion now suddenly gets his energy, tries to get up. And this fellow has a whip in his hand. He hits the whip. And he throws a piece of meat in front of the lion. The lion obviously jumps in to catch that meat. This fellow hits the whip again. And that's when the lion understands, if I have to eat that meat, I have to listen to this fellow. There's a connection between that whip and my life. If I want that meat, then I have to understand. So this is what technically happens in the path of spirituality. Before you come to the path of spirituality, before you come to the path of Krishna consciousness, your minds are like wild lions roaming around in the jungle. No control, no restrictions, it can do what it wants. The moment you come to ISKCON, you put the lion into a cage. Initially, the lion will say, chanting. No, I don't like to chant. So you say, chalo, 1 round you chant. The lion just doesn't want to form any kind of discipline. And you just completely restrict. So the fence, the cage is what we call as the regulative principles. No meat eating and all that that's what the cage is. You're putting the lion into a cage. And then the whip is the intelligence. And not feeding the lion is saying no to whatever the mind asks. In the beginning stage of our spiritual life, learn to say no to the mind. The mind tells you, I want to do this. No. The mind tells you, I want to do this. No. The mind tells you, I want to do this. The mind will keep telling you so many things. Simply start saying no, 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 no. At some point, when the mind has fasted so much The mind will say, Baba, you tell me what to do at least. That's when you use your whip and you say, Chalo, now eat this. Then the mind will jump and say, Chalo, I'll at least eat this one. Huh? This is the way the mind is trained. So Subahu represents an untrained mind. And the way Ram dealt with Subahu is by strict discipline. That's the way to deal with the untrained mind. Now, for all of you who are new to the path of Krishna consciousness and have come to the path of Krishna consciousness in this yatra or through my classes on the yatra, and you are seriously interested in helping you deal with your mind, please come before lunchtime here, and I'll design a program for all of you that will help you really deal with your mind well and really understand what is a path of disciplining the mind, so that eventually your mind becomes your best friend. And it actually helps you in the path of Krishna consciousness. So for all of those people who are new over here, who are not chanting at all, who are chanting few rounds, who are chanting 8 rounds, 10 rounds, not 16 rounds, but who are very confused, what exactly need to do, please come here. And I will help all of you all get a very solid program to deal with your minds. And this is a program that has been introduced to us by Lord Rama himself through disciplining Subahu. Once all the demons were killed, finally Vishwamitra Muni poured the last oblations into the fire. And the sacrifice that Vishwamitra Muni has been wanting to do for such a long time finally gets completed at this point in time. Vishwamitra Muni is so happy. He comes to Lord Ram and expresses his gratitude for helping him complete the sacrifice. Obviously, the sacrifice is not something that Vishwamitra Muni is going to gain out of it. It's not that he's going to gain something great out of it. He's doing the sacrifice for the welfare of society only. So when Lord Ram comes and Vishwamitra Muni expresses gratitude to Ram and Lakshman for helping him deal with all the demons and protecting the yajna and completing it, Lord Ram expresses his gratitude for being given the opportunity to serve. That night, all the sages sleep very peacefully because their desire has been fulfilled by the blessings of Lord Ram and by the help of Lord Ram. The next day morning, Vishwamitra Muni and all the sages, they get up early in the morning. And after waking up early in the morning, they come to Lord Ram and they talk to Lord Ram. They tell Lord Ram that you have 2 options. Vishwamitra Muni is telling Lord Ram. The first option is you go back to Ayodhya because I promised your father that after the sacrifice is over, I'll bring you back to Ayodhya. The second option is we go to Ayodhya with a little detour. And Vishwamitra Muni tells Lord Ram, there is a very, very powerful bow of Lord Shiva kept in Mithilā, in Janakpur. And that bow of Lord Shiva is so huge that it takes thousands of men to lift that bow. Janak Maharaj is performing a dhanur yajna, performing a bow sacrifice. And I've been invited for the bow sacrifice. Would you want to come to see Lord Shiva's bow with me? And then we'll go to Ayodhya. Rama and Lakshman, immediately, the moment they hear Shiva Dhanush, they say, yes, we want to go there. If you want to tell youngsters of today, that if you want to inspire some youngster to come somewhere, you have to tell them something that they understand and they are wanting. You tell them, MS Dhoni is coming somewhere. Everybody runs. You tell them, Diljit is coming somewhere. Everybody runs over there. So Vishwamitra Muni used the hook, Shiva Dhanush, because these are 2 Kshatriya youngsters, very powerful Kshatriyas. They know they love warfare. And they love these bows and they are learning all these new missiles and all that. And in that context, if they are told Shiva Dhanush is there, obviously they became inspired. And they said, yes, we'll go. Vishwamitra Muni takes Rama Lakshman along with him towards Mithilā. By the way, it is not a small detour, it's a major detour. Ayodhya is in another direction, he's taking another direction only totally, But Vishwamitra is very expert in getting his work done, basically. So he doesn't tell Ram, I'm going to get you married to Sita. If he tells Ram, I'm taking you so that I get you married to Sita, he will never come. So he only talks about Shivadanush, that's all. He doesn't talk about marriage. He doesn't talk about Sita. He doesn't talk about anything else. He only talks about Shivadanush, and Ram immediately becomes interested. Obviously, this journey from Siddhashram to Mithilā is a very, very important journey that Vishwamitra Muni is personally going to undergo. Because it is a journey of where his spiritual life will come to a culmination. So we learned so many things that Vishwamitra Muni has learned over his journey with Lord Ram. We began by first, what is the first thing Vishwamitra Muni learned? The idea of sharing, right? He learned from going from a very selfish life of only thinking about his own growth. He started, thinking about sharing his knowledge. Second thing he learned, dependence. Instead of only focusing on his austerity, his greatness, he began to learn the greatness of the other people. The third thing that Vishwamitra Muni learned, balance between taking and giving, between selfishness and selflessness, learning to deal with one's desire in a way that is conducive and it is progressive. The fourth thing that Vishwamitra Muni learned, being aware, being sensitive. If Ram was sensitive towards Tataka, who is a demoness, Vishwamitra Muni realized that I have to learn to be aware of the pain of other people. I have to be aware of, the thoughts of other people. I have to be sensitive towards other people. Then the next thing, the sixth thing, what is that? Trust issue. Yeah. The fifth thing that Lord Ram, this is fifth or sixth? Fifth thing. The fifth thing Vishwamitra Muni learned is the idea of trusteeship. That something belongs to me, but it's actually not mine. I may control it, but I don't own it. And somebody may own it, but they don't control it. The idea is that whatever we have in our life, including life itself, is given to us for a reason. And we need to use it for the purpose of serving God and for a higher purpose. And then eventually be detached. The sixth thing Vishwamitra Muni learned from Marich, what did he learn? The idea of discrimination and not taking unnecessary risks in life. Spiritual life is all about having peace of mind. If you're unnecessarily going to take risks that are going to agitate your mind, you will never be able to practice spirituality properly. Take risks, but take calculated risks. And the seventh thing Vishwamitra Muni learned from Subahu, to discipline the mind, put it in a box, and make sure that the mind is tamed, so that the tamed mind can help us focus better. From now, Vishwamitra Muni is going on a much deeper spiritual journey. So all these things that Vishwamitra Muni learned are a little on the outer side, little on the external side of your spiritual growth. But the next couple of things that Vishwamitra Muni is going to learn is much deeper. It is much more internal, and it is much more something that all of us should aspire to learn. So whatever Vishwamitra Muni learned is not only for him, it's for us. When Ramayana is saying that Vishwamitra Muni is learning all of these things, it is actually telling us, Baba, all of you all should learn all of these things, right? So it's our own journey also. So as we grow in our journey of spiritual life, we have to learn all these things. And that is when eventually we'll come to a point where Sita and Ram can get married. And the marriage of Sita and Ram is actually the process of initiation. The spiritual master marries the disciple to the Supreme Lord. So Vishwamitra Muni is a guru over here. And Sita represents the living entity like all of us. And he is marrying Sita to Ram, represents the guru marrying the living entity to God. That's the process of Diksha, that's the process of initiation. So the whole journey of Vishwamitra Muni culminates at that point. So we will continue seeing the journey. So hopefully today evening we will enter into Mithilā and learn some really more valuable and deeper insights. At this point in time, Vishwamitra Muni is taking Ram towards Mithilā, but he doesn't enter Mithilā. He takes a detour from Mithilā also. Now, Vishwamitra Muni has his own way of functioning. So he tells one thing, but he does a little bit something else. So why Vishwamitra Muni takes a detour and what exactly Vishwamitra Muni is aiming to do, we will see today evening. Hare Krishna.